Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Three Principles Global Community webinar. The Three Principles Global Community, or 3PGC, is a nonprofit organization that's committed to bringing an understanding of the three principles as introduced by Sydney Banks to people throughout the world. Today, we have Yael Abramson with us. And as a child struggling with insecurities, including food and relationships, leading to a mental illness diagnosis, at 23, Yael was living in a feeling that no matter what she did, she was mentally broken. After coming across the work of Sydney Banks and the understanding of the mind, she slowly started to feel free. She found peace of mind, more security, and after 1 year, she lost 50 kilos without dieting. Seeing her mental state as a part of being human and not a cause of the past or the future gave her the ability and strength to share this understanding and help others. Yael is now a facilitator of the Missing Link Book Club in Hebrew, has a private counseling practice, and works with a group of people translating the many books available about this understanding for the Hebrew-speaking community. Yael, thank you so much for coming on with us, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Okay. Wow. Thank you. I'm honored that you asked me to show up here, and a little nervous, but I'm okay. And yeah, this topic, living, staying calm in chaos. When I looked up the word chaos, I saw like things are out of place. There's no, I have the Hebrew word in my mind. And I was thinking a little about, my personal chaos that I went through, that you shared a little about. And then I kind of went back, in Jerusalem, in a Jewish religious environment with Arab neighbors living across the street in the village right near us. And we were kind of like very friendly. When I was very young, we were very friendly. We didn't play together, but we saw each other. We told each other hello, and when my father needed help or someone from the village needed help, they came up and asked my father. And looking at my father from the side, I was kind of proud. I was like, yeah, my father just gets along with everyone. But very quickly, I think it was the first Intifada broke out, and buildings near us started going up on fire. And I realized that there's this way that I'm supposed to act to people that are not like me. And I didn't understand it. I didn't like it. But I saw that, this is the community you're in. This is how you grow up, and that's how you're supposed to see things. But it didn't sit with me. It didn't sit with me well. And I started seeing everything around me in this like eye of judgment. Like, oh, how are they acting? That's not okay. I remember seeing a group of children, my neighbors, throwing a bag on this kid on a donkey, like this Arab kid on a donkey. And it was okay to hate if there was a good enough cause. It's like kind of like you grow up with this idea that you have enemy. And I think that the way that I was seeing the world, that everything that was happening outside was affecting me. The way my siblings were acting. I grew up with 9 siblings, so there was always chaos in the house. Like you wake up, if I didn't wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, I woke up at 7 with everyone else, there's chaos, like sandwiches flying around and who bought the bread, and there's only stale milk in the fridge. And it's like, I had an idea that I could only eat bread that was made today. So if it was finished, I had to walk 20 minutes to the supermarket to get bread, because if not, I didn't have a sandwich for school. So I was always worried for everything around me. And there was something that I didn't understand about, being myself and being human, that it's okay that I don't see everything like everyone else does. And I had a lot of judgment about myself. And it caused a lot of stress in my life, a lot of pain. And I started living from this place that no matter what I do, it's not going to change. Like, I don't know things. I don't understand why people are acting this way towards others. I don't understand why I'm always getting upset. I don't have a choice to be calm. And I didn't know about the fact that I can go and sit in my room and, find, peace of mind. So I was on this like roller coaster in my mind. And I think that one of the things that I used to do in order to find peace without knowing it was going to stay with my cousins. They lived in this settlement about an hour away from Jerusalem. And I would come home and I would tell my mom, I'm going to my cousins. And I would throw my bag down and I would run outside to get the bus. And she would be like, wait, how was your day? What happened? I was like, no, I can't be here. There's too much noise here. Like, I couldn't explain that. I couldn't sit with that noise. And just the idea of going to my cousins was so calming, because it was out in the nature. All I did was like play basketball and run around with my friends. And I didn't have to think about anything. I didn't have to clean up my room or think about what to make for dinner for myself and for my siblings. Sorry, my cat is making some noise here. No, come here. And I didn't really know how to explain that I needed quiet. I didn't know how to explain that I was stressed. So the funny thing is that the way to quiet, we had to pass by a lot of chaos. We had to pass by a lot of Arab villages. We would get stones. Our bus would get stoned. We would have to duck down. All the children would have to duck down on the bus, and we would kind of have to wait till all the stones were, already thrown at us, and then we were able to sit in our seats again. And there was this idea in my mind that, like, being in a settlement with a fence around and soldiers protecting you, I would be more protected in my home with my parents, because our house was so close to our Arab neighbors that I would wake up, I would have these dreams of being attacked by Arabs, but there was no protection. Like, that fence in the settlement was like the one that was taking care of me. I didn't have to dream these bad dreams when I was so far away, because I was protected. And so growing up with all this chaos, becoming a teenager with all these stuff in my mind, being afraid of everything that's around me, um, with all the stress and anxiety, and being afraid to talk about it, led me to a place of, having a first manic episode, not really knowing what it means, being diagnosed. And from there on, it was kind of like a freedom ticket for me, this diagnosis, because I finally had an answer for why I was suffering. I didn't really know why I was suffering. So now I get this diagnosis and now I know. So now I could finally rest and just do what I can. And I decided to live life, you know, the way, I'm told from now that you have this mental diagnosis and you're kind of broken. You're not like everyone else. But, you take this medication and you'll be okay for the rest of your life. And it was kind of okay for me, but I wasn't okay. I was just had these breaks from going in and out of the hospital. I wasn't okay. I wasn't happy. I didn't know that happy was an option. I didn't know that quiet was an option. And that's how I lived for about, I think, 8 years, 10 years. Um, and then uh, I have a friend, a very close friend, that was living in London, growing up in the same community as I did. And we were very close. I'm very blessed to have this friend because in all of the pain that I went through and all the suffering that I went through, I knew that there was one person for sure that loved me no matter what. I knew that. And in the darkest places that I've been, I would have this memory that came in from nowhere of that friend. And it was like, okay, there was like you know, a little sigh, and I was like back into the chaos again. But knowing that there's one person in the world saved me from from more suffering. So she invites me to stay with her for a little bit in London, and because all of my anxious life, I had no idea what she does. And I thought that she was just a mom and she has children, like most of the people around me and most of my friends that had kids and raised them. So when I get to her house, she said, "We're having this 3-day class, so come with me to work." And I remember, like, I was so puzzled. I was like, "Oh, you work? Like you do something?" My mind was so busy that I think I was so embarrassed even of asking her what she does. But because I trusted her, I said, "Okay." I said, "I'm going to come with you." And I sit in this room for 3 days, listening to her and another facilitator that was there. They're talking about this guy, Sydney Banks, that saw into his insecurities. And he saw that it's a thought. And I was like, well, that can't be, because my personality is mad, upset, and insecure. So, but when I listened more, I had this little bit of hope that if one person saw that his insecurity is not real, then maybe I have a chance. And I started realizing in these few days that there are people in the world that talk in a way that are like explaining what goes on in my head. I didn't know that people talk about these things. I didn't know that this exists. So after a few days, while I'm sitting there and I'm starting to understand that there's like this inside out thing, I raise my hand and I say, wait, okay, what you're talking about is very weird, because if what you're saying is true, if it's true, and everyone in the world knows this, we wouldn't have wars. And they said, you're right, but let's help you first. So that's when my journey started, with this understanding. And I'm a very slow learner, and I like it, because I think that if it would be like a one insight and changes all, they would probably put me back in the hospital. Like, there goes another episode. So I had no idea what to do with this, because what I left with from that week, or from those few days, was the fact that my thoughts are not me. And that was so puzzling, and I couldn't even get around the idea that my thoughts are not me. Because who am I? Like, I've been listening to my thoughts and going by them for 30 years. Everything. Like, I started thinking back, and I started remembering, wait, so those times when I was in the living room with my siblings, and they were fighting, and I had this voice in my head, oh, hit them, and then it would be and then it would be fine. Like, I didn't have to listen to that. Having, an upset moment and going to the fridge and eating, eating my thoughts, eating my feelings, just eating away. Like, I didn't have to do that. And I realized that I never listened to anything else. So this idea of my thoughts are not me became like this, kind of like this technique in my mind that I didn't have to listen to. And the next year, I lost about 50 kilos, and I had no idea why. I didn't know why. I just knew that something is happening inside of me. I started becoming less upset at myself. I still got upset at people, but I started getting less upset at myself. Um, my OCDs, I started having a lot of like insights, and I started playing all these tricks with my OCDs. Like, if I was used to doing 1 to 10 when I woke up in the morning, I started playing around with it. Like, oh, what if I could do 7 first? Or what if I don't have to do number 5 today? And if I usually go to my mom on my bike and go, I would always go in the same way. And if I had to shop, I always had this idea of where I'm going to be next. Everything I did ran checklists in my mind. I got to the end point, and then I would start. And I started realizing, like, I'm never living where I am. I'm always planning ahead. I'm always doing what my thoughts said, but I kind of had like a little, a set plan. And slowly, I started seeing a little more into that. And I think that without understanding what was happening, I knew that this was important. I started going to the London conference every year, the 3PUK. And in one of the breakout rooms, I go into a room with Dr. Bill Pettit. And I'm like, all geared up to listen to this psychiatrist, right? Talking about my mental illness. Because till then I was still ill, right? Till then I saw into thought, but I had no idea that this understanding has anything to do with my diagnosis. And I asked him a question. I said, what are you talking about? Because I think I understand what you're talking about, but what does this have to do with medication? Like you're saying people can and can't be, like there was something about there. And I got to a place where I was so okay with taking medication, because if it wouldn't bring me back to the hospital, at least I won't have to start my life again every 2 years. So I was okay with that. And he said, the more we look into our spiritual nature, the more we'll understand what medication does for us. And then we can be free of it, like something like that. I'm sure it wasn't in those words. And I got so upset because I started learning about these 3 principles, right? We're spiritual beings, we live in a physical body. And I was like, and now he's telling me I'm not spiritual or not spiritual enough. Dr. Bill Pettit, Black Book. Tell my friend, don't talk to me about this guy. I don't want to hear any webinars about him. I go home to Israel. The next year, I come to the next conference. I'm sitting in the same room, same breakout room, same doctor. And one of the guys in the room gets up and he says, so when can someone go off medication? And I was like, oh yeah, right. I think I was going in that room because I had so much ego to all the wrong things this doctor was saying. And he said, this guy is asking the same question and now he's going to answer the same answer. And I already know, he's going to be upset at him as well. But I think that what happened was that I didn't care about the answer because I already knew it, that I just sat there. And he's answering the guy. And I'm sitting in this room. And suddenly I see it. I see how my manic episodes are created through thought. It's like a tape rewinding, and I see it. And in that moment, it's like this, oh my God, wait. Could it really be that manic episodes are created from thought? And in that moment, I knew that one day I'll be free of medication. No rush. But I saw it. And I was so excited. I was so excited. I started talking to my friend, what I saw, this and that. You can't really explain it because no one who went through something like that doesn't really understand the process of being totally lost. I don't know, walking around the streets, 5 o'clock in the morning, imagining that I'm building the 3rd temple. And when I get a moment into reality, I look at the floor and I'm standing across this pile of gravel and dust. So seeing this was like something that, okay, I see it for myself. I don't know what it means, but I can't explain it to anyone. And I'm still in this thought thing, but it's helping me. And I listen more. And my life starts changing in so many ways. Like suddenly the things I was interested in come up again. I start learning. I was working as a chef till then, and I started developing my interest in wood turning, and I start learning and I start creating things. And my family changes around me. Suddenly my parents change, my mother changes, my father changes, my siblings. I have a relationship with every one of them. Where before it was like family, there are these people that you come together, you fight, and then you go home. And you smoke yourself up till you fall asleep because you can't deal with them. But suddenly life became nice. There was a purpose for me. I didn't know for the world, but it was okay to live. I was waking up in the morning, pretty exciting. Going to work, meeting people, enjoying a walk in the park instead of what was going on in my mind. And seeing all this for myself, I couldn't keep it for myself. So I started doing what a lot of people do. I heard about the three principles. You have to hear about this thing, that life doesn't really work like this. And I did that for a while. I made all the mistakes on the ways, but not really mistakes, learning more about myself. I'm still not perfect, but I'm okay. I'm okay. And then I joined a webinar, the 3PGC, and I think it was exactly in the time where there was war was going on in Israel. And I shared a little about that. And Vani asks me if I want to come here. And I was thinking, like, what do I say? Because then it could sound like those conversations I was having with those people, like, it's not really a war, it's just you're thinking about it. But when we were talking just a couple of minutes before we started this recording, there's this inside out way of looking at life that when I have a good enough reason to be in judgment or to be in hate towards something, I allow myself. And it's not an easy thing to talk about because to me, there's so much misunderstanding about who we are as human beings. And first, how our experience is created. And those two today come together in such a beautiful way for me. They can't be separated. They can't be separated. And when I was sitting in my house, hearing sirens going off, being at work, hearing people talking about the enemy, if only this enemy that's on the other side would act in a certain way, would do 1, 2, 3, we wouldn't be in this situation. And I didn't know what to do. But I knew enough not to get into the conversations with other people around it that weren't in a place of talking about it. When you're so set in an idea, that it's okay to be a certain way because you have an enemy or because your way is the only way. There's no reason for me to get in that conversation. So I learned that. But I also saw that I don't even want to get into the conversation in my mind about what's going on. So I sat at home for a little while, and in the streets in Jerusalem where I live, it was pretty quiet. It wasn't like, in the center of the country or I don't know, 15 minutes away from where I live. So I went out and I talked to people, and I asked them, how do you feel? And I talked to Jews, I talked to Arabs, I talked to Christians, talked to Armenians. And I feel like it's split into two. It's 50-50. It's the people that are interested in hearing and sharing and don't understand why we're still in this situation. And then there's another percent that have an agenda. Doesn't matter why. We have an idea that this is how it's supposed to be. And until it's not like that, I don't know, God won't come and visit us. We won't have redemption, or it doesn't matter. The idea doesn't matter behind it. But another thing I saw in the people that had an agenda, I saw a lot of pain. And when we're in pain and we don't know where it comes from, we think it's coming from outside, we're very eager to fix the outside because then we won't suffer anymore. That's what I thought. I thought that I have to change the whole world before I can change myself. But I don't know why I was blessed to come across this understanding and to start learning the nature of how experience is created, how our biomechanics is the most amazing thing in the world. And when we know how it works, it directs us to who we are. And when we learn about that, we can't but see that we all come from the same place, and we're all brothers and sisters. And there's something that I was hearing again and again from Sid, because we were sharing this with our Hebrew group. And he said, we have to go beyond all concepts, all religions, to get the truth. And another thing that he always says is, we have to see it for ourselves. It's still, no matter how many people know this, and it's very exciting, it's still from one to one. So I think I don't know what I shared, but I think this is a good place to stop. And if anyone want to share, ask, or comment, I would love to hear.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
Thank you, Jill.
Amen. Amen.
Yael, it's Dawn, and I just wanted to say I've just dropped into such a deep feeling. Thank you so much. That was amazing.
Thank you, Dawn. Thank you for being here.
Yael.
Hi, Kineret.
I loved your story. Really touched me deeply. I loved how you spoke about inner chaos, not even knowing what it was, and your own journey of coming out of the inner chaos, seeing health and what that is, regardless of diagnoses. That was really tremendous. I really acknowledge you for your wisdom, for that something that compelled you to move forward, take those steps and keep hearing more, even if, there was ego stuff, and keep hearing more and keep hearing more, until, like you said, that Sid said, you saw some things for yourself, in a deeper way. And that's just so inspiring. It's so, so inspiring. And I loved your sharing of, the conflict that happens between peoples, and when they attach to ideologies and concepts, and how easy it is to blame something external than take inner responsibility for our own turmoil and our own chaos, our own fears. And I was reflecting even on my life, and enemy images. I have one enemy image. It's called my stepmother. And I keep remembering that it's my experience, and then she's there, and I forget. I just forget. I forget. She opens her mouth, she says something I don't expect, comes out of left field, and I forget. I'm totally in reactive mode. Here we go again. Take 1,235. And I wonder, when am I going to see more deeply into this one aspect of my life? When there's a person who, just finds whatever it is that's vulnerable in my life and loves to reflect that to me in a way that sounds very harsh, that sounds very critical, and comes out of nowhere when I'm in my most vulnerable, and says like the things that are like the most shocking. And I have a reaction, and there it goes again. And I'm wondering if you can speak to that.
There's a story that comes to mind. But it's not my story. So maybe I'll have to ask permission and personally ask her maybe to tell it to you, because it's also about a mother-in-law. But I think that when we have an idea that there's one thing that is the thing that's always gonna stand there, like there's one thing left that is the outside affecting me. And I'll just say the way she told me. She said she saw that she had all these sticky notes on her mother-in-law. And when she thought about her mother-in-law, or she was present with her, she saw all the sticky notes. And I think that sometimes it's okay that we get reactive. It's okay that we get feelings from something, right? From something external to us, something, it wakes something in us. But when it does, the more we see that, that's the time to be selfish. Like Mavis Karn always says, be selfish, take care of myself. Where is my state of mind? If that is the only thing that I need to take care of when things happen, so I'll know what to do, how to take care of myself. I'll know what to do, and I will. And maybe one day I'll see that it's not my mother-in-law, or who cares? But taking care of yourself when you feel, or when something is going through you, or you're aware of the fact that right now there is this chaos building up, and you'll remember, you'll know what to do. Because the same thing that helped me through my life, that made me stay away from my family like 3 or 4 times a week, you have the same thing. You have that wisdom. And it will tell you exactly what to do. Just like all the things that you already seen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, Xander.
Yep, I'll just lower my hand. There you go. I have a friend. You were talking about the whole that sort of stuff. I have a friend who I don't really need to tell you about his background. It might help. He was Jewish. He has done the rounds of all sort of belief systems. And recently, well, about 4 years ago, he turned, well, he went to Islam. And he comes to my home, and when I knew him, he was still searching. And he's deeply religious. I really don't know, I can't tell his story. But what I do know is my experience with him, it becomes very dogmatic. He's forever telling people that they need a path, they need they need religion, and they blah blah, but the whole, he's stuck, and I can see it. I just, you talked a wee bit about, the I don't know. I'm losing words here, and I'm getting kind of hot and bothered because I've never been on a Zoom call with so many people. So I'm starting to feel a wee bit self-conscious, right? That's okay. Just acknowledge that. That's enough. So I want to know how to deal with him and his his dogmatisms and his insistence that you need a leader or you need someone to sit back says don't follow anyone. You know, I kind of believe I would go with that 100% even before I ever heard of setbacks. I don't know. I don't really even know what the question is. How do you deal with people who are stuck in that? You know, because I've tried. You know, and he's a friend, and I'm getting to the point where I have to perhaps thinking about maybe I should reevaluate that friendship because he will not. It's almost to me. It's like I've got a story in my head. He will not listen to reason. It's my reason. My reasoning is, you know, it's like I don't know. It's hard to explain, but can you speak to that? Nothing. There's not much to go in there, but I don't know what I've said, and I don't know if I'm explaining myself too well. But there you go.
First, I appreciate that you came on and you talked, and while being anxious, right? There's so many people here. But I don't. Do you like this friend? You know, do you like hanging out with him?
Conversation. We've had this long running 8 years of a friendship, and the whole basis of the friendship was on spirit. I mean, 8 years ago, I discovered the three principles, 2018, and coming from my own personal path, my own journey, I suppose. I always put path in inverted commas because to me, you know, it's just leave a story behind. But yeah, for 8 years, the friendship started on the grounds of searching and discovery and you know, and all that sort of thing, seeking whatever it was we were seeking, and I went my path and ended up in a non-dual path and path. And he went where he's gone, and there's been times when I've thought, you know, maybe we've just parted. We just don't meet in that place of. I don't even know if we've got anything else in common except that initial discussion. I met him when I was opening a group, and here in Belfast. I'm Scottish, but I live in Belfast, and I was opening a group, a spiritual discussion group. And he sort of, I met him just as I was opening that, and so we sort of, yeah. So that's what I mean by reevaluating the friendship. Is it? Do we have any other common ground, sort of thing? You know. So it's not really about him. It's not really about him and his beliefs. It's about whether we have anything in common anymore. It's like he's made up his mind and my mind is floating free, kind of thing, you know. Because I know what he's in his own mind anyway. So
No, you said before that you see him as stuck, right? Like he's stuck in what's good for him. You know, there is this idea that when we find something for ourselves, we want to share it with everyone because it's so good. But if we can look beyond being stuck wherever we are, or seeing someone as stuck, and we can look beyond what we believe in, because sometimes there are people, I don't know if I want to hang out with them, but if I think about it, when I sit with them, do I enjoy sitting with them? The conversation changes. Sometimes it's like this, sometimes it's like that. But if I like the person and I can see beyond their ideas, I could be friends with anyone. And sometimes maybe I'll need to take a step back. And sometimes I reevaluate my friendships with my friends. Because what I used to do in the past is I would find someone in between us to tell them, I'm having problems with this friends. Maybe you can fix that for me. Just tell them. But I see how just thinking about that conversation could be a little scary. But when I sit and talk to people and say, look, I like you, you're a good person. I really just want to hang out with you. I don't really know if I want to talk to you about art or cooking, or some people, I don't want to talk to them about spiritual development. I just want to sit and have a coffee with them. And I think that sometimes these things come in the way of enjoying life. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I've already decided that I'm going to have that conversation with them. But I've told them that I'm busy for the next 6 weeks, just to sort of avoid it as much as possible, But it's not so much it's more. It's not that I can't accept where he is. I've tried to tell him that I respect his decision, but it's his judgmental approach towards other people who don't have the same beliefs as him. It's not so much anything else other than that. It's his, I suppose, arrogance, even if you want to call it spiritual arrogance, my way is the right way kind of stuff,
Yeah. But I don't think that you have to worry about that, because that's his. That's his. And sometimes when what I saw for myself is that when I start seeing judgment in other people, it's a reminder for myself that that's how I'm seeing them. And when I saw that, it was very freeing, because it became a constant reminder for me. Because I live around a lot of people. I grew up religious. I had so much hate towards religious people. I can sell it and be a millionaire, I'm telling you. I had so much hate towards myself. That is the judgment of anything, of did I do the dishes? Why didn't I do it yesterday? That brings me back. Look where you are, because it's always about me. It's always about me. Where am I? Where's my state of mind? And it's always a reminder, because wherever I am, that's how I'm going to see the world. I hope that, that's just what I think. It could be helpful. It could not, but.
Makes sense to me. Thank you. I'll give somebody else a chance. Thank you.
Sandra. We have Paul. Hi, Paul.
Hi, I did have a question for you, but I listened to Xander and I'd like to put my 2 pence worth in on that, if I might, before I ask you your question. I think you shouldn't get too tied up with the labels. I met a Christian guy who was, I describe him as a monster. He was a fanatical. And I thought about it for a long time, decided to leave the church that he was a member of and go my own way. Because I think anybody that claims divinity, i.e. they've got a spiritual side and they know a path to God, but doesn't have any humanity, really, I haven't got any time for. Because I think you have to balance the two out. It's one thing to know God, and it's another thing to really have humanity. I mean, that's what I've been taught since I was a little kid. You know, be kind to others, forgive them their mistakes. We all cock up. Don't make too much of things. Don't make mountains out of molehills. Forbear people. Live with them. You know, and it sort of broke my heart leaving the church that I was at, but I couldn't stay there with a guy like that. I'm sorry. And I won't argue in the church because, you know, it says in the book, take your arguments outside. Don't have any arguments in a temple. Anyway, I hope that helped, Xander. Don't get too tied up with the labels. It's all about divinity and humanity. And if he hasn't got any humanity, well, tackle him about that. Yael, you said, quote unquote, I'm not perfect. And my question to you is this: who says so?
Yeah. It's a good question.
I've been pondering it myself for a long while, and I need you to answer that because it's going to help me.
Okay. I was having a conversation with my mom a few days ago. And thanks to this understanding, I have a great relationship with her. And I think that we're so conditioned to the fact that if we are humans and we're still here on this earth, that equals we're not perfect. But I don't think that's true, because the more we look in this direction, who I am is nothing but perfect, is whole, is everything, right? We have everything inside. We are part of the world, but if we're part of the world, so we are the world, we are God. So we may get more knowledgeable or more insight, but who we are now, to your question, are perfect. I guess it's just a habit of saying that I'm not.
Thanks, mate. That's very helpful. I'll tell you that. That's very helpful. Because I tend to agree with you. You are perfect. So. Okay.
Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
You know I love you.
I love you too, darling. You're smashing.
Yeah, I just want to be respectful of your time. It's 1 o'clock. I'm happy to stay on if you have the time, but I wanted to let you know.
Okay, we can go a few more minutes. Maybe
Our hand.
there's someone with their hand raised.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, yes, we can.
I love how the conversation that just unfolded has modeled like asking better questions and prompted you to answer them in real time. That's one of the things I love about these types of connections. So I think we're prompted to ask better questions because that's how we're different than all the animals, right? We tell stories, and our story improves when we have to ask better questions. So I think that's why we keep forgetting, and we are here to remind each other. It's like we understand it, and then a circumstance like a stepmother or whatever circumstantial stuff was placed in our past to make us grow spiritually. So yeah, I really love how you're pointing this out. And it occurs to me to share something from Yael, our conversations around weaving in the Hebrew. When you ask each other how you're doing in Hebrew, you say manishma, and it's like literally what is heard. What are you hearing? What are you listening to? Are you listening to these thoughts, or are you listening to what comes up after the storm? You know, it's like a little reminder. Or me'efoli, you know, when you don't know something, you're reminded, I don't know, and you just say, where is the answer going to come from? You know, these are little hacks in the language that I feel like help us point to this understanding that I just thought I'd chime in and speak to that here. That's it for me. Thank you, Yael. So beautiful.
Thank you, Rob. Wow. Yeah. The question that keeps on coming up, so where do the answers come from? Thank you for that reminder. And I just want to say thank you for everyone who showed up, and I love you all. Thank you to Bonnie.
I so appreciate that you came on and shared. There were so many times I wanted to comment, but I wanted to give other people the chance. It was really beautiful share. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thanks everyone for coming on. Hopefully we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye, everyone.